عليكم السلام.
الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So, in continuation of our discussion of the heart, its sickness and its cure, previously we had spoken about, we'd actually begun the phase of the treatment, and we had spoken about the disease of the dhunub and how that disease can be cured, or different methods to treat that disease. And we'll continue inshallah ta'ala today in this vein, and we will take the disease of al-jahl, ignorance, and how it is to be treated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran and the Prophet and the Sunnah have prescribed a cure for al-jahl, ignorance. You want me to hold this? Leave it. Okay. And that cure is as-su'al, asking, wa talab al-ilm, and seeking knowledge. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And the Prophet said in the hadith of Jabir, collected by Abu Dawood, he said, شِفَاءُ الْعِي as-su'al, that the cure for ignorance is to ask. And he said in the hadith of Anas, collected by Ibn Majah, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. So the primary solution for al-jahl and also the disease of al-shubuhat is to seek knowledge, to study, and to learn the deen from the authentic sources and from the credible, knowledgeable people. And the sad thing is that in our time, the means, al-wasa'il, the means for seeking knowledge and eradicating ignorance are numerous, and they are readily available. But in spite of this, very few Muslims take advantage of these wasa'il. Very few Muslims are in the regular habit of studying and trying to learn their deen. And this is a question we should ask ourselves. So I'm going to put the question out there, and then you just apply the question to yourself. How many of us make it a regular practice, let's say daily practice, to try to eradicate our own ignorance? How many of us have a regular study regimen where, for example, every day we're trying to learn something about the deen that we didn't know the previous day? Whether it's through reading, there are certain books that we read to study and to learn, to increase our knowledge. Or there are certain durus, ongoing lectures, whether those be in the masjid or online, that we follow to try to constantly be in a state of learning and increasing our knowledge. Or there may be even a particular scholar or group of scholars who we follow via YouTube lectures, online lectures, and we try to follow them so that we can learn from them, etc. I mean, how many of us are in the habit of doing that? How many of us are even in the habit of, when we have an issue about Islam that we don't know, we're not sure of, that we'll ask, or we'll try to find the answer? Instead, what many Muslims do, unfortunately, is they just assume. They just assume they have a situation and they're not sure where the truth lies in the situation, what they should do in that situation. So they kind of guess. They just assume that, well, what makes sense to me, well, it would appear to me that I should do this or I should do that. And this is the opposite of what the Prophet ﷺ taught And it also puts us in that danger zone that we talked about when we first talked about the issue of ignorance, the danger of ignorance, and some of the things that, the negative aspects that come to a Muslim if he's ignorant. We talked about how the ignorant person will harm himself. Sometimes he'll harm others. We talked about how ignorance is a primary source for al-ibtida' fi deen, innovations in the deen. So all of these negative things will come to the person when he's in the habit of what? Just assuming, just guessing, instead of actually asking. So we have to be keen, ya ikhwan. We have to realize, look at the hadith. Talab al-ilm faridah. He said it's obligatory, it's required. It's not an option. Ala kulli Muslim, upon every Muslim. We shouldn't think that knowledge is just for the scholars, just for the students of knowledge, just for the mashayikh, just for the du'at, for the callers, the preachers. No, it's for every Muslim. Every Muslim has to what? Has to learn that amount of Islamic knowledge that will make him what? Truly a Muslim, truly a believer. It's a requirement. So this is the first, or this is the treatment, or the primary treatment for al-jahil is what? To study and to learn the deen. And that's a responsibility which is on the rest of the shoulders of every Muslim. Another disease that we talked about, ya ikhwani wa akhwati, is kathrat al-akl wa shaba'. Eating too much, overeating, and eating to one's fill. And there are a few cures or treatments for this particular disease. And one of them is something which is prescribed annually. There's something that the deen has prescribed annually to treat this disease and to condition us, to calibrate us away from overeating. Anybody want to guess what that is? Ramadan. Yeah, fasting. So this ritual of fasting is one of those things that can help us to be from the people that some of the Salaf, they said, Man dabata batnahu dabata dina. Whoever can be in control of his stomach will be in control of his deen. So Ramadan comes and it teaches us that. It teaches us how to be in control of our appetites. But that's not the only thing. But obviously Siyam is one of the primary things. And if you notice, it's not just, it's required in Ramadan, but it's recommended throughout the year. Why? Because it's so critical to help us to control our appetites. So for example, you find the Prophet ﷺ used to fast every Monday and Thursday. Every Monday and Thursday. And he used to encourage his companions to do the same. So for example, one of the companions, he said, he asked the Prophet ﷺ about fasting on Mondays. So the Prophet said, yeah, I encourage you to do that because that was the day that I was born. And that was the day that I was what? Commissioned as a prophet, and that was the day that what? Revelation was revealed to me. So he used to encourage him to what? To fast on those days. He also encouraged him to fast 3 days out of every month. What were those days that he encouraged him to fast, Ya Ikhwan? The 13th, 14th, and 15th, what we call in Bil Arabi, we call them Ayyam Al-Bid, the white days, because that's the day when the moon is at its full. He also encouraged them that after they complete Ramadan to fast 6 days from Shawwal. And he told them if they fasted 6 days from a Shawwal, it would be as if they fasted for the whole year. كيف ذلك يا إخوان? How can 6 days equate to the whole year? Who can explain? How can 6 days equate to the whole year, ya إخوان? Ramadan plus 6 days. And if you multiply every day by 10, because every deed that we get will be rewarded as if we did what? 10 times what we actually did. 30 plus 6 gives you what? 360, the whole year, ya ikhwan. The whole year. Just by fasting Ramadan and Shawwal. So the Prophet would tell them about these rewards, so what? To encourage them to what? To fast. Jameel. But in addition to fasting, ya ikhwan, there are other things that the Prophet would do by his own example and instruct his companions so that they would learn to what? To control their stomachs. So one thing the Prophet would do when he ate is he would eat with what? With 3 fingers. So what you're putting in is much less than if what? If you're using a spoon or a fork, which is basically a shovel. It's a shovel, ya ikhwan. So you're just shoveling it in, right? But if you're what? 3 fingers, it what? You're eating much less. You're putting much less in. Okay? So that's one thing the Prophet ﷺ did by his own example. Another thing he used to tell his companions to say, إِنِّي لَا آكُلُ مُتَّكِئًا. He said, I don't akul with this hay'ah of a muttaki'. And the scholars of Islam, they said what the Prophet meant by muttaki' is murabba'. The person who eats what? Cross-legged, the way I'm sitting right now. The Prophet would not eat like this. And then they also said that when the Prophet says something like, I don't do this, it's an indication that doing so is makruh. It's disliked to do it. So he was telling his companions in a roundabout way, I discourage you from eating like this. Why, ya ikhwan? Why do you think? Because when you sit like this, how's the button? It's wide open. It's wide open, ready for what? Ready to accept whatever you put in. Got it? And so you're just sitting there with your legs crossed. And then before you know it, you're full up to here and you can't even get up. You can't even get up from your seat. It happens so fast and you're just what? You've overstuffed yourself. So what did the Prophet ﷺ used to do? He would eat like this. He would prop up one leg. And what does that do, ya ikhwan? It closes off what? Part of the stomach. So even if you eat to the point where you feel like you're full, once you put that leg down, there's space. The stomach opens up and you're not what? You're not actually full. And you're in compliance with the statement of the Prophet when he used to say to his companions, he said, if you have to fill your stomach, فَثُلُثٌ بِطَعَامِكَ وَثُلُثٌ بِشَرَابِكَ وَثُلُثٌ بِنَفَسِكَ. A part or a third for your food, a third for your drink, and a third leave it open or leave it vacant for easy breathing. Finally, ikhwan, another advice that the Prophet, another advice the Prophet gave to his companions to encourage them what? To prevent themselves from overeating. He used to tell them that, listen, the food that you prepare for one person will suffice two people. And the food you prepare for 2 people will suffice 3 people. And so on. So he used to teach them, like, look, eat with others. Share what you have. If you have a plate, don't eat that by yourself, but what? Eat it with someone else. And so it's a good practice, ya ikhwani, if we learn not to prepare what? Separate plates, but from one plate and share it with others. And this can work even in the home, even between husband and wife. So instead of husband, putting this Jabal Ruz on his plate, right? And then wife, Jabal Ruz, so you have what? 2 mountains of rice? No, just make what?
Rice and beans.
On one plate, and do what? Eat together and feed each other. Yeah. Which also brings in another element, ya ikhwan. Brings in that romantic element that the Prophet used to what? Incorporate. And you know that he used to do this with his wife. He would eat with his wives. Yeah. Prophet ﷺ. And we have the famous Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned this fi Zad al-Ma'ad, that the Prophet, whenever he would eat like a bone with meat on it, he would eat it with what? With his family. He wouldn't eat it by himself, he'd eat it with his family. And he would give them the bone and they would what? Take a bite, and then he would take it and what? And turn the bone to the same spot and eat where they had eaten. So he would share his food with his spouse. So don't think the sharing is just for what? For the brothers. So if I'm with one of my brothers out in the pavilion, then what? I'll have a plate and we'll eat together. No, even in the home, ya ikhwan, we should incorporate this and eat with our families.
And licking each other fingers.
MashaAllah, ya Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And say that again, say that louder. Because you have some women that might be shy and think that they shouldn't do that. Hey, babe, they think it's... So say it again. Can you say it louder?
You're the teacher.
Huh? Yeah, but you're helping me. I need your help. Say it again. What should a man do again? So he should lick her fingers and she should lick his fingers too, right? But I just want to make sure we're clear. Alhamdulillah. So from بعد ذلك, I'm going to mention one last cue, ya ikhwan, and we'll inshallah complete. I don't know how we're going to do with what are we going to do with the durus in Ramadan. These durus and the dars of Ithnain.
This is different. You can teach 3 twice, 5 times a day.
So we have to talk about that.
Let's talk, yeah.
Okay.
I thought you talk about it in the park, but
طيب, let's.
Some people they cook it in state park and after this they bring it to the
They cook it in the park and they bring it to you. Okay, alhamdulillah. طيب. But nothing is.
يتأخرون حتى يأخرهم الله ما تيجي يا عم.
But nothing is confirmed until I run it by you. So it's just talk until then. All right, let's do one last one, ya ikhwan. We're going to do the disease of al-kibr, arrogance and haughtiness. And how do we treat that, ya ikhwan? I think one of the best ways to treat it is what was mentioned by Hassan al-Basri when he commented on the ayah when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Abasa, min ayyi shay'in khalaqa. From what thing did we create him? Min nutfatin khalaqahu faqaddara. He said, we created him from what? Nutfa, this mixture of a woman's fluids and a man's fluid. فَقَدَّرَ. And then we did what? We fashioned him, we decreed him, etc. So, Al-Hasan al-Basri, when he commented on this, he said something to the effect of, he said, بِمَا يَتَكَبَّرْ الْإِنسَانِ. He said, with what right, or بِأَيِّ حَقٍّ يَتَكَبَّرْ الْإِنسَانِ. He said, with what right does a person become arrogant or haughty? وهو خرج من مخرج البول مرتين. وهو خرج من مخرج البول مرتين. He came out of the place where urine comes out twice. Not once, twice. And you guys know what that means. So what Hassan al-Basri is telling the human being he has to do to avoid becoming arrogant and thinking himself superior to others and looking down upon others is he always has to remember where he came from. What he is. He came from a fluid that if it gets on you, you're what? You're disgusted and you want to what? You want to wipe it off. And he came from a place where filth comes from. This is his reality. And he is nothing more in the sight of Allah than what? A speck. He's nothing more than a speck. And if he knows where he came from and what he really is, this will keep him humble. But once he loses sight of that, that's when he allows himself to become what? Arrogant. So this is the critical thing, ya ikhwan. I think one of the major cures for treating al-kibr is we always have to remember where we came from, our origins, and our reality vis-a-vis Allah, our Creator. So we'll stop there, ya ikhwan, inshallah ta'ala. Next time we'll complete. And then inshallah, hopefully take another subject. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Is the name of a question? Anybody have comments, concern?
Any questions, comments, or complaints? Going
1, 2, 3, 4.
Going twice. Gone.
2, 3, 4.
About the eating food and sitting. How are the Arabs gonna do?
What about this?
The Arabs from Egypt and Morocco.
Really?
Hey, brother.
What do you mean? What are they gonna do?
They can't go from Africa.
Gee.
What about eating like this?
That's shovel. That's a bigger shovel. Bigger than a spoon. Bigger than yeah.
What about eating like this?
Mm-hmm. Closing both sides, I guess, huh? I don't know about that, you shit. I don't know about that. I don't know. Because the way you're sitting, I guess, theoretically speaking, you're closing both sides. Maybe you'll eat even less. Okay. But is it allowed to eat like that?
Is this anything to forbid?
There you go.
All right, brothers, we have a discussion here with Dr. So-and-so and Brother So-and-so. And so if anybody wants to have a discussion about what's going on,